All right, I thought I would also do just a real quick video on some of the tools that I found extremely handy and not everybody may be aware of or know they're going to need. One of them was the flanging tool I just talked about. If you happen to do the mods, I did. Actually, you can see more of how I flanged those fabric brackets in. It just really smooths that transition out. Of course, with countersunk rivets, get that all filed down. Just much less bondo, less weight in the long run, I hope. We'll find out. Reams. I was told by several people to get a good set of reams, and that was an absolute. It seems like you use 1/4, 5/16, 3/8, and 3/16 probably the majority of the time. I have used every one of them in there. It's mainly to clean out powder coating. There is some weld deformation a little bit in some of the tubing when they weld it on. And so that also cleans that up, no problem. Very handy to have. Something that's nice to have, it's not a must-have, is this jig for locating the holes for the nut plates. Very simple way of doing it. It's more time consuming. For example, on this one, you just drill an 1/8 inch hole, put a cleco in it to hold it down, and drill your holes, line it up where you want it, and drill your holes through it, and it works out really well. It's just a little time consuming. For you guys that don't know how this jig works, basically you would drill the center hole first, drop this down, get it lined up how you want it, drill your right hole, flip this over, put that pin in that right hole to hold that in location, and then drill the left hole. Again, you got to make sure you get that aligned. One thing I just thought I'd mention, just because, and I don't know where these come from or if you can even still get them, this is a pair of case scissors. These are famous for being able to cut pennies into, and they are extremely tough, but where they worked out really well was like on the fiberglass bull nose for the flaps. It cuts through that material no problem. Of course, a Dremel, which everybody most likely has, a really good rivet squeezer. Beg, borrow, or still one of those. I did actually borrow that one. I need to get a good set. These ferrule or oval sleeve crimping tool, very important. Use a good tool on that. For you guys that don't know, depending on what wire you're crimping on, what type of sleeve you're using, there's a definite go, no-go dimension for everything that you're doing as far as what type of wire you're using, what type of sleeve you're doing. So be mindful of that. Another thing that's really handy are the cutters that are actually made for wire, rope, or cables. If you can see in there, that blade is curved on both sides, and the reason for that is it encapsulates the cable as it's cutting it, and it keeps you from getting stray wire strands. It'll save you a lot of poked fingers later on. Rivet fan. I really wish I'd known about these a long time ago. They are very handy for laying out holes. They would be handy in anything, whether it's woodworking, metalworking, or whatever. I just didn't know they existed until a couple years ago. I could have really used that a lot for laying out shelves, a series of holes, anything. Hole duplicators. Hole duplicators, by the way, they come in just about every drill size you can think of. And where they're really handy is, for you guys that don't know, whenever you're trying, for example, putting the cover sheet for putting the fuel tank cover on, you would just slide this tip down in one of those holes. This goes over the top of the sheet. You just drill down through it, and it perfectly duplicates the hole, and you can go through and match your whole sheet up that way. Permagrit files. These are great. They're pretty aggressive, but they work excellent on carbon fiber, fiberglass, aluminum, just about anything I've tried them on. They do a good job on. So really handy. And one thing that I actually meant to show you guys last week, and I forgot to, was this tool. It's very simple. I took an old combination square, cut the majority of the back away, riveted this into place, and then from the inside corner here to those holes, it's exactly 9.5 for the ailerons and exactly 10 for the flaps. And how you use it is you just locate that on the trailing edge, and you put the bushings in your hinge fittings. You either put the bushing in or some of that nylon bushing material you use for the aileron hinges. It's same OD and ID. But anyway, you slide the bolt through, make sure that is butted up right against to the trailing edge where it needs to be, and it just lines those up perfectly and consistently, which is probably more important than just absolute perfect dimension, just as long as they're super consistent. And I measured it out the first time, and it was no problem. You look down through the hole from one end. It wasn't quite perfect. When I laid it out with that, they were all consistent, and it was like looking down a bullseye. So it made it easy and made it much quicker after making the tool. Calipers. You might as well have a bunch of these laying around. They're cheap. Get them at Harbor Freight, I think, for like less than 10 bucks now. And nice sharp points, perfect for scribing out holes on aluminum, wood, fiberglass. I keep multiples of them around when I'm setting up different things. I can set the multiple dimensions and just lay it all out at one time. Clamps, a lot lots and lots of clamps. This type is handier than this type. I bought both of these from Harbor Freight. I mean, they're only, I think, $2.50 a piece or something. So they're cheap. You just gotta make sure everything is tight or they will fall apart on you the first time. But after that, I've had zero issues with them. Another great tool, obviously, is internet. For you guys that are not familiar with places or websites like the Wings Forum, that's a fantastic source of information. Gentleman that I should mention too is R.D. Holtz. He's got his own section on that forum, and he's just got a ton of knowledge and just an A+ guy. I highly recommend you checking that out. It's a great source of knowledge. All right, that was just a rundown of some of the tools that I found really handy. Hope it helps you out, and see you on the next one. Thanks.